Good morning, everyone, and welcome to the Sunday Unity of Reading message. Today is January 24th, and our daily word is oneness. I am divine. Over the years, I have learned that there is a spark of divinity within me and within all people. This divine spark binds us as members of one family and deepens our awareness of God. Today, my understanding of this divinity expands. My divine nature is so much more than a spark. It is my essence, who I truly am. I realize I don't have to rely on anything outside myself for love, comfort, and guidance. Everything I could ever need from God is already mine and is expressing as me. My realization of oneness extends to all people, whom I now see as fellow divine beings. Freed from all illusion of separation, I am aware of the divine presence everywhere, expressing through everyone. We are divine. And from John 17:21, that they may all be one, as you, Father, are in me, and I am in you, may they also be in us. So I have been presenting a series of messages on Back to Basics as a way for us to better understand and deal with current situations in our lives, in our country, and in the world today. This series is based on the 5 principles of unity and unity philosophy. The 5 basic principles, again, are: God is absolute good and everywhere present. We affirm there is only one presence and one power in the universe and in my life, God the good omnipotent. We are spiritual beings created in God's image. The Spirit of God lives within each person. Therefore, all people are inherently good. We are co-creators with God, creating reality through our thoughts. And through affirmative prayer and meditation, we connect with God and bring out the good in our lives. Knowledge of these spiritual principles is not enough. We must live them. I have talked about the first 2, and I believe the daily word today sums up much of those ideas. I touched a bit on the third, but I want to go into more depth in looking how we can live this third principle in our lives to see the changes that we've wished to see. I've said many times before that I believe Eric Butterworth is the single best teacher of unity principles, especially when it comes to their physical application in our lives. I read quite a few excerpts from Butterworth's book last week entitled Unity, A Quest for Truth, and will continue today with Butterworth's teachings from Practical Metaphysics, The Art of Thinking, for further explanation of this principle. We are co-creators with God, creating reality through our thoughts. Emerson once said, "Man is an inlet and may become an outlet of all there is in God." Walt Whitman realized this when he wrote, "There is no endowment in men or woman that is not tallied in you. There is no virtue, no beauty in man or woman that is not good in you, no pluck, no endurance in others, but as good in you." This is the divine spark of the Christ within that we refer to in unity. It is the infinite possibility within us that we have the privilege and responsibility of releasing through the character of our thinking, or, as we use the word in unity, through consciousness. One of unity's finest writers, Amal de Shanklin, says, "Your mind is your world. Through thoughts, your thoughts are tools with which you carve your life story on the substance of the universe. When you rule your mind, you rule your world. When you choose your thoughts, you choose results. Your life is what you think. Think straight, and your life will become straight for you." Mind is a connecting link between humans and God. Our lives are founded upon our dominant thought habits. Someone might say, "But this is some strange notion of psychology or metaphysics. How do we know it's the truth? If thought is so important, why doesn't the Bible teach the power of constructive thinking?" And that's the point right there. The Bible teaches little else but this. It is not until we catch up on this underlying theme that the Bible begins to make sense to us. Throughout the entire Old Testament, the historical sequence, the teachings of the prophets, and the beauty of the Psalms, we find the insinuation of that which the Proverbs expresses concisely, "For as a man thinketh in his heart, so he is." Through parable and direct teachings, Jesus stresses the importance of thought. In religion, the important element is our thoughts and our attitudes. He said a man's foes will be those in his own household. Jesus meant the thoughts of his own mind. And Paul gives justification for all religion when he says, "Do not be conformed to this world, but be ye transformed by the renewal of your mind. This has been taught by all the great spiritual masters in history. Buddha stated, "We are shaped by our thoughts. We become what we think. When the mind is pure, joy follows like a shadow that never leaves." We must let our thoughts express God rather than simply expressing reactions to things of the world. Thought itself is creative, and we become positive, creative, powerful beings when we think original God thoughts. Elbert Hubbard once said, "Man is not what he thinks he is, but what he thinks he is." Your life, as you are now expressing it, is a reflection of the framework of your mind as formed by your dominant attitudes and beliefs of consciousness. If you are not satisfied with what you are experiencing, then you must begin today to rebuild this mental framework. Be ye transformed by the renewing of your mind, as Paul said. As a practical matter, we are what we think we are. However, all too often, what we think we are falls well short of who we are in reality. Given the fundamental importance of thinking to the quality of our lives, it is almost inconceivable that we do not place more importance on how to think in the course of our education. As Butterworth puts it, it is rare in education that we are introduced to the process of how to think. The mind is dealt with, for the most part, as a fact collector and a word dispenser. In other words, we're taught what to think, but only rarely how to think. It is especially surprising that we place such a low priority on educating people how to think, since, in Butterworth's words, we are thought manufacturing machines. Every day we think somewhere around 60,000 thoughts, with about 80% of the thoughts being redundant or repetitive, and 80% of those redundant thoughts being negative or fear-based. Generally speaking, we do this day in and day out. There is no other activity in the course of our lives that is as productive as the number of thoughts we create on a daily basis. So prevalent is the activity of our thinking that Butterworth suggests that any time someone asks you what you do, your answer should be, "I'm a manufacturer." Because we have not recognized the importance of words and thoughts, we continually and habitually express such thoughts as, "What a stupid fool I am," or "Everything I do fails miserably," or "Oh, I suppose once again we're going to have more of these difficult times." These are our thoughts, and our thoughts are going to determine the kind of conditions we experience in our life. Our thoughts set our own evaluation. In a very real sense, our thoughts determine what we become and the way others see us. For life is always lived from within out. As Elsie Robinson says, things may happen around you and things may happen to you, but the only things that really count are the things that happen in you. When Jesus said, "Be it done for you as you have believed, and according to your faith be it done unto you," actually, he is referring to your thinking. Faith is another word for thought. Jesus was saying, "According to your thoughts be it done unto you." The thoughts you think actually are the key to manifesting the conditions of your life. When you think in terms of possibilities of life, then the door of success is open. If you think in terms of self-pity, of injustice, then the door is closed. But you open it or you close it by the way that you think. You can think yourself into being unhappy or depressed. You can think yourself into being glad. You can think yourself into being well and prosperous, or you can think yourself into being sick and poor. You can actually think yourself into unemployment, or you can think yourself back into a good salaried position again, doing good work with good compensation. And this is a very important thing to remember. As we say in Unity, thoughts held in mind attract after their kind. Like attracts like. Ever notice that if you are in a bad mood and having negative thoughts, much more seems to bother you? You see everything as negative. Someone says something that ordinarily might not faze you, but if you're thinking negative, you see it as an insult. I like to compare our minds to a Google search. I remember a conversation with my daughter a few years back, and she said, "Isn't it scary that the internet knows what you like? You might search for something, then it comes back to you with, if you like this, you might be interested in this." Yes, that's the way the universe works. If you like to think and feel happy, here's some more things to feel happy about. But if you like to be upset, maybe this will upset you even more. Our underlying beliefs and attitudes produce our thinking. Psychology has determined our minds are a filter. There's something that they have termed confirmation bias. This explains quite a bit when it comes to our thinking. Remember, our beliefs are only the thoughts that we have held on to and accepted as true. It doesn't necessarily mean they're factual or true. Once we have accepted a belief as truth, our minds will search out ways to back up our beliefs and prove ourselves to be right. Many of the beliefs we hold on to are handed down from generation to generation, or things that we have heard from others and we had agreed on. There are many sources that convey, quote, information, but always remember that the information we receive is always filtered through that person's beliefs. Another way we form our thoughts and beliefs are through our own experiences. It is all too easy to believe that the thoughts we are thinking are produced by the external events we experience in the world. However, nothing could be further from the truth. Experiences do not cause thoughts. We forget the law of cause and effect. Cause is always from within, and our experiences are always the effect. Life is not a continuous reaction to what happens outside us. What happens in our mind happens as a result of our attitudes. Our mind is our domain. Students of A Course in Miracles will also recognize that what happens in the world has no meaning whatsoever until we decide what it means. Butterworth would agree. He says, what happens in your mind happens as a result of your attitudes and your feelings and your habit patterns. Your mind is your domain. In other words, you and I are in charge of what we think. We have dominion. Therefore, we have the power over our thoughts. In truth, this may be the only dominion where we have any real power. No one outside of you can make you think anything you are not willing to think. By extension, no one can make you believe anything you're not willing to believe. No one can make you anything. It's only your thoughts. External events are just that, external events. They have no power whatsoever to create thoughts in your own mind, unless we choose to think on them. We are in charge, and we have dominion. External events do not cause thoughts. We are causing the thoughts. To become a master at the art of thinking requires that we first rightly understand the purpose of our thinking. With respect to the activity of our thinking, the purpose of practical metaphysics, or unity teaching, or A Course in Miracles for that matter, is not to change the world, but rather to change our perception of the world. The art of thinking is not concerned with setting the world right, but rather rightly seeing the world. In this endeavor, we have absolute power, and we have dominion. The only variables are whether and when we choose to become master artists over our own thinking. So important, then, is to know that if we refuse to accept the responsibility for our thoughts, or as someone would say, to own our own thoughts, and we insist that these things and conditions and our own thoughts about them are caused by the things out there in the world, then there's little that we can do about changing them. But if we are unwilling to accept responsibility for our thoughts, then that's just the way life is. And what can we do? In this case, we have no choice. I'm sure you have heard that plenty of times. There's nothing we can do about it. But if we take responsibility for our thoughts, if we always recognize that whatever happens in our mind is a result of our consciousness, nobody made it happen. If we're upset, it's because we're upsettable. If we're disturbed and anxious, it's because of our level of awareness, not the conditions, not the things. If we take responsibility for them and admit that it is our states of consciousness within our own mind, then and only then are we in a position to change our life by altering our thoughts. Whatever the content of your own thinking activity, whether you realize it or not, you are the one choosing your thoughts. You're also the one deciding what those thoughts mean, which in reality is just another thought. Even your feelings about those thoughts are still yet another thought and a choice you're making. The external event itself is neutral, but what you think about it is anything but neutral. Lesson 16 in A Course in Miracles states, I have no neutral thoughts. We tend to think that thoughts have no effect in the world. However, in truth, there are no neutral thoughts. Every single thought that we have has meaning for us, and we have assigned that meaning. The meaning is not out there, and it does not simply arrive fully formed in our consciousness. We cause the thought, and we assign the meaning. There is no exception to this rule. We might be able to see how our thinking affects our own emotions in life. However, we must also realize we live in an energy universe, and we're all connected through this energy. There is something termed collective consciousness or mass consciousness, in which many people adopt the same thought or belief as true. We see this manifested in actions, both positive and negative. What we must realize is our own individual thoughts and energies matter because they are part of the whole. The energy we put out in thought and feelings combines with that of others of like kind. So even if you become angry or fearful over current conditions, know these thoughts and feelings not only affect you, but also those around you. In the same way, if you can maintain thoughts and feelings of peace, harmony, unity, love, those thoughts and feelings will affect those around you and produce the world in which we want to live. There is an art to thinking, and there is a path to mastery of that art. However, to successfully walk that path requires that we assume personal responsibility for the activity of our thinking, and that we exercise dominion over our thinking. To exercise dominion over our thinking does not mean we vanquish or eradicate it, but rather that we see it rightly and choose accordingly. We are all a thinking center within divine mind. Divine mind is our milieu. We are not separate from divine mind. There is only one basic intelligence. The very first step in this process that we're calling the art of thinking is to know that no matter what happens in your world, no matter what happens out there, no matter what you hear in the news, no matter what is taking place around you or to you, you always have a choice. You always have a choice. You don't have to be angry. You don't have to be unhappy. You don't have to be worried. You don't have to be fearful. You can choose to think positively or creatively if that's the way you want. You can become the master instead of the slave. It takes awareness and some work. It's not always easy to take possession of your own mind. To change from being a reflex thinker to a creative thinker, it takes a lot of discipline and will and commitment because we have been thinking in this way for so long. But we can do it. Positive thinking is not just a programmed mind. We are not what we think. Rather, we are thinking what we think. And the you that thinks what you think is more than the thoughts you're thinking. The truth of who you are and what you can become is already there. Positive thinking is being attuned to your potential. We do not need to program truth into our conscious mind, but to wake up the conscious mind to the truth that it already knows. It is working with mind from within us, working with mind from without. It is working with mind from within us versus working with mind from without. It is not about filling up the mind, but waking up the mind. Butterworth describes the difference between what he calls horizontal and vertical thinking. One deals with an information, the other with inspiration. The one deals with things as they are, the other deals with things as you are. The horizontal thinker is a person who watches the news and sees the things in the world and says, "Oh boy, what a terrible day. Everything seems wrong today. The world is just falling apart." But the vertical thinker sees these things, but instead of simply reacting to them, he thinks the kinds of thoughts that he wants to think. Essentially, as a positive thinker, he thinks the kinds of thoughts that he wants to see manifest in his life, so that he tends to become, instead of the problem-oriented, he becomes solution-oriented. Remember, Jesus said, "In the world you have tribulation, but behold, I have overcome the world." I can decide how I'm going to deal with it. See, that is vertical thought. The positive person is not the person who never has a negative thought. Even Jesus had negative thoughts, symbolized by Satan or the devil. But Jesus disidentified from the negative thought pattern and said, "Get behind me, Satan." We can say no to negative thoughts by not allowing it to take possession of us, or we can disidentify from it. The art of thinking takes discipline. Discipline is the capacity to make yourself mind yourself. We are all disciplined creatures. We groom ourselves in the mirror before going out into the world, and we must also groom our state of mind as well. It is more important to prepare ourselves mentally for the day than physically. As Robert Frost writes, "First thing I do in the morning is wake up and make my bed. Then I make up my mind." You can change your life by altering your thoughts if you know that your thoughts are a problem in your life, not people, not situations. This is something that requires a great change of the whole general perspective by which we view life. Because I know that most of us tend to be very defensive. We tend to be very reactive. We tend to try to point the finger of responsibility to all sorts of things. But important is the realization that I have the capacity to decide how I'm going to think. I can't change people. I can't change the world. But I can change what I think about them. And then, through all intent and purposes, I can change my life by altering my thoughts. The best possible method of thought training is prayer. This brings us to our last two principles, which I will present next week. Through affirmative prayer and meditation, we connect with God and bring out the good in our lives. Knowledge of these spiritual principles is not enough. We must live them. But before I end today, I would like you to consider a little homework assignment suggested by Eric Butterworth and based on Robert Frost's comment. First thing I do in the morning is make up my bed. Then I make up my mind. This was the key to his optimism, to identify himself with infinite divine mind each day. The reason for the first is that it's physical. It's something I can actually do. So I physically make up the bed. But while I'm doing this, I get the feeling, identification with my mind, that I'm making up my mind too. I'm getting the wrinkles out of my mind. I'm getting myself organized and orderly. I'm beginning to think the kind of thoughts that I want to think. I make up my bed, then I make up my mind. Then I go down and face the world. And I'm secure that no matter what happens, I can be on top of it. This was a simple little demonstration or technique by Robert Frost. So I want us to use this as an exercise during this week. Don't laugh at it for it being so simple. Really, really try it. When you wake up in the morning, take a few minutes before you do anything else to make up your bed. Pull the covers up, straighten it all out, get the wrinkles out, and get that sense of identification that while you're doing this, you're getting your mind in order. You're getting yourself in tune to make that kind of identification. You're getting yourself constantly identified with the individualization, which is you of infinite mind, that you live in divine mind, the allness of infinite mind. All the creative intelligence of the universe is the milieu. You live in it. It's here, and you can shape and mold it any way you will. So as you begin to shape your bed into a nice, orderly arrangement, in the same sense, you're shaping your mind into that which is positive and creative and self-fulfilling. If you do this simple little exercise, which in a sense is not prayer, yet it's in a real sense is probably more prayer than some of the prayers we utter, you will find that you will become more positive, more capable, and more ready to meet the experiences of the day with positive creative power. Try it. See what you can do with it. I think you'll find it to be very helpful. After trying it for at least 1 week, please leave a comment on the positive experiences that you have had. I like to take these thoughts into prayer and meditation. And as we do, I invite you to get comfortable in your seat. Whether you're sitting or standing, get comfortable. And I want you in your mind to just imagine yourself making your bed in the morning. As you pull up the covers, make a commitment to not only make your bed, but to make up your mind. As you cover your bed, make a commitment to cover those thoughts and those things from the outside. to decide to make a commitment to only think those thoughts that are going to make you feel good. Only think thoughts of truth, thoughts of love, thoughts of peace, forgiveness, acceptance. Smooth out the wrinkles of your bed and smooth out the wrinkles of your mind. Know that no one has power over your thinking and your thoughts but you. Make a commitment to only identify with those thoughts that are pure. For as Paul said, all those thoughts that are of good, that are of peace, that are of good rapport and virtue, think on these things. Make a commitment to think on the thoughts of God throughout the day. Feel the comfort of making your bed and making your mind. Make a commitment to do this each morning, and as you do this, make a commitment to think the thoughts of God, to feel your oneness with that divine spark within. And know that as you choose your thoughts throughout the day, you choose the experiences of your life. In this moment, choose to be happy. Choose to see loving, kind acts. Choose to produce those loving, kind acts yourself. Choose to see the good in other people and things. For whatever you look for, you will see. Choose to feel the love of God welling up inside you. Choose those thoughts that produce peace, not only in your own body and in your own mind, but in the world around you. Knowing that your energy affects not only you, but those around you. Make a commitment to be part of the solution by thinking thoughts of the world the way we want to see it, filled with peace, filled with unity, equality, and love. If you see something that at first disturbs you, bless it. Bless it, but disidentify with it. Don't accept it into your mind. Don't allow it to produce thoughts of negativity, for you are the master of your mind and your own thinking. Know that it is possible to change your thinking and change your world. Once you have made your bed and you have made up your mind, go into this world and live by the Christ ideals. Express God in all your actions and in all your thoughts and all your attitudes. Know that at any time you can start over your day. For we all have those times that we go back to being upset or angry or fearful. But no, nothing has the meaning except the meaning that we give it. Know that all things work out for good. Know that there is only one power and one presence in the universe and in your life, God, the good omnipotent. Make a commitment today to speak and think only those thoughts that uplift yourself and uplift others. know that as you change, the world around you will change also. Let us be the world and the change that we wish to see. Let us be peace. Let us be harmony. Let us be acceptance. Let us be love. Let us be joy. And let us see those qualities reflected back to us in the world. And so it is.